Just want to get feedback from our interviews first. Please feel free to. I believe everybody on this group. Yeah, Chinonso, please go ahead.
Okay, for me, and my teammate, gathering these gathering the interview questions wasn't so easy for us. Carrying out the interview wasn't as well very easy for us, but all the same, it was fun.
Okay. What were the issues? What were some of the issues you faced?
Okay, first of all, we came up with two different, like we had to, with the first stage of coming up with
Mhm.
these interview questions, we came up with their pain points, and after the pain point, we came up with some interview questions, and we had to go back to rewatch the video to see if this interview question should address their pain points and the solution that we are to provide, or the interview question should just address the pain points alone. And after rewatching the videos, came back together. I had to reach out to you, and then we now came up with another interview question, because the initial one we created was addressing both the solution and their pain point, little of their pain points and more of the solution. So we come up with another interview questions addressing the pain points of our stakeholders.
Okay. Thank you for that, Chinonso. So and let me quickly provide feedback. Okay, first, how many groups are here? Chinonso is here, and so Chinonso and Favor one group. Maki, who is your teammate? Is it Victoria? Hi, Victoria.
Yes, Maki is my teammate.
Okay, that's two. Then Ese, are you with Nifemi? Question number 7. I've forgotten who was with me. Esther. Esther, let me just use Esther. I need to the names on the group.
Yes, I'm really family.
Yeah, we need Femi. Okay, all right. Good. So three
Yes.
groups. The three groups are represented. Good. Okay, so interesting. Uh, we have Mav joining us today. Hi, Mav. Welcome. Glad you could join today. Can you hear me? Hello, Mav.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. How are you
I'm
doing?
good. Yourself?
Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you too. Thank you too.
Have you been able to catch up a little bit on the previous classes? You've
No,
been
no,
able
I'm
to,
yet
no?
to. I'm yet to.
Okay. So we've covered a couple of things. So you might, unfortunately, won't be able to go back to do a recap because it's been a lot. But you
Okay.
can just watch that and just go with the flow where we are right now.
Okay, no problem.
So
No
happy
problem.
to join us today.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
yeah. So Chinon, so let me start with providing feedback on for that for what you raised. So I actually didn't even know this was the full issue. I just thought we were looking at addressing their pain points. I didn't know you first came up with their pain points first. Or you said you came up with their pain points and then you are now looking for interview questions to get understanding of their pain points. Is that it? You know, so
Yes, yes,
okay. So I think let me first give before I give feedback, let me just hear from the two other groups. Maki, how was your own what how was your own coming up with questions, doing the interviews? What problems did you face? I think that's just it for
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
evening.
So, we actually worked together. At
Okay,
first, you shared the videos you asked us to go through. So,
okay,
we went through the video, and we also read, like we had to read the task, like what we're asked to create. That's
Okay.
our prototype, sorry,
Okay.
our
Case study.
prop tech, yes,
Yeah.
the case study. So we had to get an insight of what we were asked to do. So before we came up with questions, and we shared the questions like in parts. So, I
Okay.
referred back to you so that we could get a deeper knowledge of what to do and how many questions to ask, because finding questions became a bit difficult. But we went through it, and we went through the interview, although we couldn't really get the actual number, because of some things. My baby was ill, so, and
Oh, sorry about that.
my colleague was also very busy at work, so, but we managed to pick few people and talk to, you know and it was actually exciting at the end, but we didn't have much time at hand to complete everything. So
Okay.
that's what I have to say.
Okay. It's understandable. But again, I'll come back to you guys also. So Esther, let's hear from you. Your own team, you and Nifemi. How was it? How did it go for you? What were the challenges you faced with the interview questions coming up with it and actual during the actual interview?
Okay, so good evening once again. So
Mhm.
I actually didn't know about the interview questions. So when I was told like yesterday, I text
Oh,
texted me on Wednesday. So on Thursday yesterday, I went to the group and asked her, oh, I meant to like compile interview questions and all. So we discussed on the questions that we want to like make the users feel for their pain points and solutions. So we're still like compiling, but it should be done by tomorrow so we can start sending it out for responses.
okay. All right. Cool. So,
Yeah.
thank you everyone for at least taking some steps. And again, the approach this training is taking is to actually get you to do this stuff, so that like basically get you to get your hands dirty, because that's the only way you can learn. And like Maki has said, like Chinonso has said, finding those questions can be hard, and doing the interviews can be harder sometimes, especially when you're starting. However, it gets easier with time. But it will never get easy if you don't try it out. So that's the core essence of this, the approach this is taking, like get you to actually do it. But so I would have loved, really, really loved to go through the interview questions, and maybe you guys should send it to me later. But just the questions. However, the reason why I'm not exactly asking, I'm still in between. The reason why I'm not exactly asking for it yet is because I will still have to see it in this defined phase in a more orderly fashion. So that's why I was just thinking of waiting till we discuss this and you guys put it together on a board. But let me just quickly, very quickly, attend to some of the, make some comments on what you said. So number one, let me start with Chinonso's thing. So I actually didn't know the part that you guys first thought about the pain point and then started looking for questions. Now, the approach should not be you thinking about their pain point first. No. The essence of the interview, the essence of the process is for you to get to know their pain points and their emotions and their behaviors, and like to just get to know about the users a lot. That's the essence. So thinking about their pain point for them would not be the way to go, because you are meant to discover that pain point during the interview or after the interview. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you have a case study, right? The case study says, oh, I've forgotten your own case study, but whatever the case study is. For example, let's say case study is health tech. You want to build an health app for, or you let's say prop tech. You want to build a property tech app, prop tech solution basically, where a platform that lists that helps buyers and renters to be able to find property easily, reduce the stress of agents, blah blah blah, and all that. Now that's the case study. The question then is like the so if you want to do the interviews, the thing to then start thinking about are okay. I've like I said last time, the first step is understand your user categories. So prop tech, you're looking at agents, you're looking at buyers, you're looking at landlords, you're looking at tenants. And of course, while looking at all these things, you are also looking at developers. Developers could be landlords, could be agents. Developers could fall into agents, could fall into landlords. Now, developers might not necessarily be a user on the app. However, some developers can give you more insight about maybe their challenges with agents or their challenges finding the right buyers directly and all those stuff like that. So these are potential users, right? At the end of the day, you can build a product that not all these people will be users. For example, let's say at the end of the day, the problem statement you just want to focus on does not concern people that want to rent. Is only concerns people that want to rent. You don't care about people that want to buy out. You are just focused on people that want to rent. So that means you are removing buyers, you are removing sellers, you are just looking at landlords and agents that want to live out, basically. But at the beginning, you look at the potential users. That's the first step. Potential user categories. And after finding, okay, these are the potential user categories, you list them out. You then look at, okay, I want to build a product for these people. Now, at first, you don't need to say, I want to build a product that helps them live. I want to build a product to make the life of these people easier, right? And this is the way I'm thinking about it. However, before I go on with the way I'm thinking about it, I want to understand these people. Okay, so as an agent, I want to understand, okay, how does this agent today, how do they get properties that they take care of, that they handle? How do they get it today? What's that relationship like? How easy is it for them? Then today, how do they get the properties? How do they get it out to the markets? How easy is it for them to get tenants or buyers? How long does it actually take them to close a kind of a particular type of property? What are the major challenges they experience with getting tenants? Now, let's say they've gotten tenants now. What are the challenges they experience with payments? Do they experience issues with getting paid their own cut, like when the tenant pays? Do they have issues getting their own cuts or getting cheated and stuff like that? You get what I'm trying to say? Now, if you notice, I have not said, oh, the agents, these are his pain points, and then I'm trying to find out. No. What I have done with these questions is I am trying to understand the agents. What is their process like? What problems are they facing? How long does it take them to close properties? What are the things that they want to be able to do that they cannot do today? What platforms or what tools do they use to currently achieve their goal? What are the challenges with those tools? You got my line of questioning, so and every other person, that is. I'm already giving Maki and our teammates, I'm already giving them Orijo like this. But the essence, the goal is not to, for example, so what's your what's your case study on again? What sector? Is it health?
Yes, health tech.
Health tech. Okay, I've forgotten the question, but I think you're looking at health products, especially for rural areas where they can. I think for
Yes,
your focus is for rural areas. Now,
yes, yes.
the question is, okay, you want to build an health tech product, right? That's what you want to tackle. No, sometimes, really, sometimes you already have an idea that you want to build. For example, somebody like Mark, when he wanted to build a product, he said he wanted to build a product that connects people, basically. So he already has an idea. So sometimes you have an idea of this is what I want to build. But the essence is, or most times you have an idea. For example, the prop tech also, or the health tech, you have the case study already gives you an idea of what you want to build and the people you want to build it for. However, before you build that, you want to understand these people. So if you are building an health tech app or product for these rural areas, there are basic challenges that you need to look at. But aside those basic challenges like internet, data, and all those things, aside all those ones, so what are the category of people that will benefit from this app? So people in the rural areas that are maybe low income and all those things. What are the so you want number one, and then maybe doctors in the areas or doctors from urban areas that can do, maybe it's a telemedicine app. I've been forgotten the case study. So let's say the telemedicine app where they can connect doctors and all those things. Um, so you're looking at doctors in maybe urban areas, you're looking at patients in rural areas. Of course, there will be an admin person, like an admin person, but that's usually low priority, anyways. So these people, your core user, which will be the doctors and the patients, let's say those are your user categories. You then want to understand them. Now, you've not defined any, you know that the people in the rural areas, they find it hard to get quality treatment or get good doctors, and the hospitals in rural areas are underfunded and all those things. And some of them don't even want to go to the hospitals and all. Okay. So you know those problems, but you want to still understand them. So what we are then looking at, okay, so for these rural areas, maybe women, men, and those kind of things, if most people that you first be able that will I receive you the most are the women, then the men, then the youth. The women, then youth, then the men, usually, but it depends, how you approach it. But you're asking them, okay, you want to understand how, if they are sick today, how do they get treatment? Like, let's say they have headache, what do they use? Some of them will use herbal mixtures, they will cut leaf, cut this one, cook it together, boil it together, take a sip, or they will go to one person that sells this. And okay, so you want to understand how do they do? Then questions like maybe even that's what they are doing. Why do they take that approach? Why don't they go to hospitals? What's their experience going to hospitals like? What's their experience with receiving treatment? What has been their experience receiving treatment? Um, um, so things like that. So you are trying to understand them from the point of how they receive treatment, what kind of treatment they take, how they approach taking treatment. Um, do they understand the benefits of even going to the hospitals? Then, of course, you also need to understand their limitations. Do they even have they ever even considered speaking with a doctor that is far away from them? How did they approach it? Have there been times where they are complaining to somebody that they know that maybe is a doctor or something, but that is far away from them, but that was able to prefer a medical, maybe a drug or something? How did that process go like? What is their challenges? What are their the issues with them going to the hospitals? What are the maybe they go to the hospital and they have to wait for a long time, or they don't even, or the doctor doesn't even come. Like they have a clinic that maybe opens twice in a week or stuff like that. So those are things you want to understand. But again, then of course on the doctor side, you also want to ask them questions to understand how they approach, how they take care of people, um, um, maybe, or let's say you are speaking with doctors in the rural areas, what's their experience with people from rural areas, blah 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 blah, on stuff like that. Notice that in all these random questions and just random thinking that I've brought up, I have not in any way decided that this is the problem these people are facing. If what's your like what's the how is it like when you go to the hospital? Reasons why you don't go to the hospital and stuff like that. You get what I'm trying to say? So it is in answering those questions that you get their pain points, their core pain points, not that you think about the pain point for them and then ask questions based on the pain point. Do you get exactly? Does that make
Oh,
sense?
I get the point now.
Okay, cool. Cool. So Esther, because I've given Maki's team and Chinonso's team small rejo, what's your own? Let me think about some questions too. But also because you've not also been with us briefly like that, so that I can also at least bring you up to speed a bit. So what's your case study? What sector is it in again, please? Esther?
It's in
I think you
e-commerce.
e-commerce, okay. So
Yes.
again, I've forgotten the full extent of that question for e-commerce, but I know that you are looking at a system where payment is easier,
Yes.
um,
Without fraud
payment
or
is
scam.
easier,
Yeah.
yeah, without scammers. You want
Yes.
to get rid of scammers and all those things. And okay, quickly before I continue, Chinonso, because rural areas might be challenging for you, I'm just thinking about it now. Maybe, or Chinonso, the people you spoke with, are they from rural areas?
Okay, let me be very honest. Because of work, I couldn't carry out this interview in person. But the people,
Okay,
I had to create a form. I had to do the interview questions in through Google Forms. Then I
okay,
sent it to residents that stays in, most of them stays in rural area. Majority of them.
okay. Thank you for trying to reach the people in the rural areas. But because of work, if you will not be able to reach them direct, because honestly, I know that you do forms, and I know forms are great, and that's also speaking to your team, Esther, because you guys are trying to come up with forms and sending it out. I know forms are great. However, I feel it's a bit easier to come up with forms and then send it out. And I feel like it's a bit harder to get a lot of insights from the forms, especially when we are doing empathy map. Like when we get to this defined phase, you see some of the reasons why I want you to do interviews. So, so if it's giving you issues, if you won't be able to reach these people, I think for the sake of this project, for the sake of the class, and so that at least it's also a bit easier on you guys, you can change it to urban people. So this, which means that these are your work colleagues, people you meet on the road, people in your office, people generally are. You are in Lagos, right? Chinonso?
No, sir. I reside in Abuja.
Abuja. Okay, you are in Abuja. So which means that almost anybody around you can speak with almost anybody around you, basically, for the purpose. Because the rural one, I'm just thinking the rural one might be a bit challenging. So let's take that to urban settlers. So just telemedicine for generally for people, either rural or urban, anywhere they are, but just people that are able to use the product. Um, because when it gets to strategy, it might also be a bit harder for rural. Rural, they have less smartphones, data usage might also be an issue. Some of them speak local dialects and not English, and some of those things. So there are more problems. There are more additional issues to look out for. Um, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to go with that. But because I want you to speak with actual people, you can speak with people in urban first. Then maybe while we are talking about product strategy, we are now looking at how do you go to market and how do you extend to people in the rural areas. But just that's all of it. So Esther, as I was saying about your own thing, we are thinking who are your core users? For e-commerce could be a little bit. It depends. Let me just put it that way. So, for example, you can do e-commerce such that you are building a platform for merchants, that's people selling things, to come on board, and customers to come on board. That's Jumia, that's Gigi, that's Konga, and a couple of other ones. And then you then handle logistics and all that. You can also do logistics, for example, ShopRite. They have, I know Just Right have their own application. I think Spar also has their own application, where you can buy directly from them. So they are the admin, they are the merchants. So it's not as if you are bringing in other people on board. So this is also e-commerce, by the way. However, I'm guessing your own e-commerce is you're building a platform for buyers to come on board, sellers to come on board. So you're like the middleman, and then maybe you also bring logistics people on board, or maybe you handle logistics yourself. So that's what you're doing. So that means you're looking at merchants, and you're looking at primarily merchants and buyers, basically. So if you want to say speak with merchants now, we are then again, you want something, you already know that there's scam, right? But you are not writing the pain points that, oh, what I want to go after is scam. Now, also let me quickly say this now that came to mind. The approach of saying this is their pain points and let us find a way to solve this will come in very handy when you have the product that is already working. Stay with me here. So let's say I already now have an e-commerce site that is running, but then I noticed that, oh, every month we lose millions to scam. Merchants are complaining of, sellers are complaining of scammers, and from the merchant side, merchants are complaining of scammers from the seller side, or however, like we are just losing money, or the scam is on the rise, and we need to solve that problem. Now, it means that you are going back into this process with just that thing in mind. How do we reduce scam on this platform? Do you get? Does it make sense? You can respond with emojis and all if it makes sense to you. But if you are going with that, so you are going now, the priority now is, oh, we have this platform, is working, people are there. But for example, I'm on Gigi. How do I, let's say I'm a PM on Gigi, and then the question is, okay, how do we reduce scam? How do we reduce, let's say that we lose about 5 million naira to scam every week. Then then the problem now, and then what we want to do is, how do we reduce the money we use to scam from 5 million every week to save 5 million every 2 months? Now, basically, how do we improve our product? Then we can now focus and go, okay, how are people getting scammed, and stuff like that? And then start looking at, okay, so what are the strategies, what are the things that we can put in place to reduce scam, maybe add feedback, add rating, and a couple of other things like that. So that's so you can go that way, you can go pain point, or you can go particular problem, big problem. Then how do we solve this? But what we are doing right now, again, is we are doing a product discovery for a product that does not exist at all, which is as a PM, when you get a job, you might actually inherit a product that currently exists, and what you are doing is improving the product and make it grow and all those things. But at some point in your life, you might, for example, let's say you want to build a new feature. You also can go through this same process. A feature that does not exist before, you can also go through this process to find out, okay, is this thing, do we need to build it and all those things? Like, is this something that users really want? But help you got what I was trying to say. So let me go back to questioning for like Esther. So say for buyers, you want to understand how they currently buy, how they currently what kind of platforms do they currently use, which e-commerce platforms do they currently use, what are their frustrations with using those options, what are their what's their best purchase, what's their worst purchase. Like, they should tell you a story about their best purchase and why it was their best purchase. They should tell you a story about their worst purchase and how it was their worst purchase. They want to, okay, how do you, then you can ask questions. Since you are touching everything, you can then ask questions about how do they spot scammers, merchandise scammers on the platform, how do they spot products that are potentially fake on the platform. So questions like that. Again, you're asking them series of questions to understand. Um, um, for example, maybe you are to ask their preferred payment method, because again, at the end of the day, you want to build a whole product, which includes payments, which includes spotting scam and making sure that their money is safe, which includes the process itself, which includes maybe the platform that they use today, maybe the money, it's usually things that are usually too expensive on it, or it's usually fake material, fake items that are being sold and stuff like that. So those are quite, again, I have not asked one, I have not gone ahead with, oh, this is the problem statement, and then finding questions for the problem statement. No, problem statements will come up at the end of this define phase that you're seeing on the screen. Like, which is this, which problem do we solve itself? So at first, you are just trying to understand them, understand more or less, like you are trying to understand the whole domain of that product, of how they today, for example, e-commerce, how do they do e-commerce? How today they use telemedicine apps, or how they get access to doctors and treatments, or in the case of PropTech, how today people are getting properties listed, people are getting properties to buy, people are getting properties to rent. How do they do that today? What are their frustrations? What are the good sides? What are the upsides? What are the downsides? What are the things that they hate? What are the things that they love? What are their experiences about all these things? What are their emotions about all these things? What are the things that they would that are missing today on the tools that they use, or on the platform that they use? What are the things that are missing today that they would love to have? The things that they have today, is this sufficient enough for them? Does it meet their needs, or is there something else that they want? What is that something else that will meet their needs better than what they currently have? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Those are the things that you're finding out in your interview. And please, also for Esther, also for everybody, for now, again, I still want you to, if you've not completed your interview, I still want you to refine your questions and speak with people again. And make sure that you're speaking with people. There's a place for survey. You can do survey, you can do forms and send survey. However, for our case, like I said, I believe surveys, coming up questions, pushing the questions out are easy. Because, for example, how do you get the problem with surveys? You can get a lot of qualitative data, right? But how do you understand the frustration behind when someone is trying to take an action? For example, so if I'm filling a form and you're telling me about food ordering, for example, food ordering, and then I say, oh, I hate, and you're asking me my experience with food ordering, and I say I don't really like ordering food, because I believe that they are, that because I've been disappointed a number of times by food ordering apps, so I no longer order food. Now, how for a form that you have created and you have sent out, how do you come up with a follow-up question for this person? A follow-up question like, oh, okay, so can you tell me more about, so okay, so you mentioned that you've been disappointed a number of times. Can you tell me about one of the times that you've been disappointed, and what made it a disappointment for you? Of course, you can ask questions like basic questions like, have you been disappointed with food ordering apps before? Yes. If yes, talk about your disappointment and who. So let's say, while talking about my disappointment, I now say, okay, so the food they deliver was not good. The riders were having issues, and some other things like that. In your form, how do you follow up with questions like, oh, it how do you sense the emotions? Like, oh, it seems like it must have really been a terrible delivery. Can you tell me more about the delivery aspect of it? What exactly did the logistics person do, or the rider do to that made it a big disappointment? No, some of those questions. Now, these are the questions I'm asking us, that I'm layering on top of the previous questions, are because, okay, I've done this kind of interview before, and I've also experienced some of these things before. So I know that these are some of the frustrations that some people might say, but a number of people might not have those frustrations. Some other people might have frustrations that are totally different from that. So you cannot, unless you are going to have a, depending on, for example, depending on the kind of product you are doing, how bulky that product is, you might have a very long list of questions that you need to ask these people that you already pre-asked. And you know, people I'm filling forms now. If I'm filling a form and the questions are too much, especially now, it's easy for people to fill a form when it is yes or no, on a scale of 1 to 5, choose something, 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 something. Then you ask the question, then they choose a scale. But if you're asking them questions that they have to be telling stories, like 5 questions, they have to tell stories. I can assure you that 50%, more than 50% people will not complete that form. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And you need people, don't forget again, for interviews at this point with empathy, you want to understand everything about them. So you are not asking open-ended questions where they are just selecting yes, no, yes, no. You want them to talk. You want them to express themselves. And getting to do that successfully with forms is a bit difficult. So that's the essence. That's the reason why, for me, I would say if you are doing this kind of thing, you can do forms to try and, okay, so for me, a couple of products I've worked on in the past, what we used forms for was to, first of all, reach out to a lot of people, because we needed to find people to talk to, and we didn't have enough information to decide on the people we'll be speaking with. So we sent out a form to a lot of people, so that when that form got back to us, we're able to look at their responses to filter, oh, this person does not meet the target audience. Okay, this person fits perfectly into the target audience. We should be speaking with this person. Then we then follow up with actual interviews. So that's the way I've used forms in this phase, for example, or using forms after or together with interviews, but never forms to replace interviews, especially if they are doing product discovering a new product entirely. That's my advice though. That's my own thought process. You might have other people that will say, oh, you can use forms, but my own way of saying it, that's the way I see it. And let me stop talking so much on that, and then we can move on. But does it make sense so far to you guys? All right.
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you for the response. So, which means today we won't be able to cover everything that we're meant to cover today, but we will start because you are still going to go back to your questions, fine tune them, ask more questions, and then come back to, and then you start this one that we are going to talk about, and then we'll wrap it up somehow. So maybe we won't have a class to wrap it up. Maybe I'll just look for materials to share and stuff like that. But today we'll be talking about define. And where am I presenting from? Can you guys still see my screen though? You guys can still see my screen, right? So I'm not exactly seeing your screen, this like the calls now. So please, so I might not see if you react to its emojis. Okay. So the last
Yes.
time, all right, all right, thank you. The last time we talked about empathy, and that's what we are still talking about. And empathy being the goal of empathy is to develop a deep understanding of the target user group, their needs, their desires, their pain points, and their behavior. That was our goal in the empathize phase. We needed to understand these people. And also during the empathize phase, what we were looking at is we want to see the world of our target users or potential users. We want to appreciate them. We want to, of course, we are also going to be communicating what the things that we are looking at doing. We'll be communicating our understanding. And then, but before that, we want to make sure that we understand their feelings. We want to see their world basically on our side to them. We want to see their world and we want to understand their feelings. But of course, we need to appreciate them and we would also need to communicate our understanding of their feelings or their problems or their pain points. Now, that's what we're doing in empathy. Now we are in define. Define is the second phase. So we didn't quite finish with empathy map, so that's the first thing we'll do, but let me just talk about the define. In define, we want to frame the problem statement. It sounds easy, it sounds straightforward. Like all we want to do is we've understood these people. Now we want to frame the problem statement. Like this is now the problem statement, like this is now the problem that we want to solve after understanding them. That's all we want to do. So our goal is to refine, but that's the overarching goal. That's the big vision. But the core goal is we want to refine our understanding of the empathize stage and clearly define the core problem we are trying to solve. Again, for especially teaching also, again, empathy, understanding the users first, then looking at their pain points to decide the problem that we want to solve, not deciding on their pain points to do an interview with them, to understand them. Again, just wanted to reinforce that. So we want to, again, refine our understanding from the empathize phase and clearly define the core problem we are trying to solve. The reason for this is, even though we have an idea of what we want to do, we, like I mentioned the first time or maybe the second time on the call, that I've been in a discovery phase before for a product where the team had what they wanted to do, right? And when we went to the market to test, to try and understand that people's perspective about that, if they built what they wanted to do, it will not work. It will fail. It will fail on arrival. It will fail 100% on arrival. However, while talking with people, we found like like more or less like a tweak to what we were trying to do. There's just a slight difference, but that slight difference will change, could potentially be the difference between the product failing on arrival or the product still having a chance at success. Now, but if you had just gone with our initial statement and just defined that's the problem and just gone ahead to try and solve it, we would have potentially failed. So the essence of the design thinking process is to make sure that whatever product you are discovering or whatever products you are putting out or whatever feature you are putting out actually is what will meet user needs. Basically, that's the core. So the even though the goal is to frame the problem statement, there are so many things here. Now, this is where you actually then distill all the information you've gotten. And today I'm going to introduce us to, I'm not going to, last time I was just talking, and just not really showing us like great example. Today I'm going to be showing us like working with the board so that we see some of the things we need to be doing. But in the defined phase, we need to analyze and synthesize research findings. I will explain all these in details. Analyze and synthesize research findings, identify common themes, common patterns, and user pain points. Then group similar user needs, pain points, and frustrations together, basically. Then also brainstorm problem statements and whereby we are generating different ways to frame the core problem based on the user needs. And next, after generating core problems, we'll prioritize and refine the problem statements and select the most critical problem to be addressed, and then refine the problem statement to ensure it is clear, specific, and actionable. Let me just explain all this grammar. What it means is, at first, all the data that you've collected, you want to analyze it. And from analyzing it, you want to find, basically what you want to find is pain points and general themes, and then you group those general themes together. Next, you want to generate problem statements based on all those things that you found out. So it means that while you are going through this flow for a particular product, you can have multiple problem statements. Then after getting problem statements, you now need to prioritize and refine the problem statement to select the most critical one that you need to address based on the impact and based on how visible it is, yeah. Then after you have now selected the most critical, you want to ensure that you just want to refine it again and ensure that what you have is clear, what you have is specific, what you have is actionable. Like your problem statement is proper, basically. That's what you are trying to do in define. Don't forget, empathize, you are trying to understand the person. Then after understanding, we then are bringing all those data that we have from understanding them to group to look at what are the problems that we need to be solving, and which of these problems will have the most impact on people if we solve it, and making sure that that problem is clear, specific, and actionable. Are you guys still with me, please? Are you still with me?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Thank you. So, how do we then go about this? It's a lot. Remember that the last time one of your tasks was that you should document your interview notes, right? And that's where I start from. So the best way, the best tool to use for this, especially since you'll be working in teams, you're always working in teams. It's not just going to be you doing all these things a number of times. Even if it's you still need to put a board so that you can see how things are moving clearly. So today how many of you have heard of Miro before? MIRO it's one of those tools that people talk about a lot when it comes to PMs, the PM world. Have you used it before? Yeah,
I haven't.
No, I've never used it.
you've not used it. Okay. So
Yeah, I haven't heard about it.
okay, so it's cool. Now, remember I said the last time that you should focus on the core. The core that you should focus on is what do you need to do and how do I do it? And then all those students will layer up on it later. I've, I try to shy away from using tools. I try to teach the core thing. However, there's no way you can run away from tools at the end of the day. You need a tool eventually. At different stages, you need tools. So let me give a disclaimer here. Number one, the tools I use, they are tools that are found to work for me. Not necessarily, it's common, but it works for me. So there could be so many other tools out there. For example, for doing user flow, people talk about Whimscar and a lot of other ones. Never used some of those ones before. Usually, most times when I'm drawing flow, before I used to use diagrams.net, which is now draw.io. But again, now I just use Fig Jam for most things. Now, for wireframing, I used to use Balsamic. I prefer using Balsamic, but now I also use Figma or Balsamic. But people use different tools for all these other things. But the core is, do you understand what needs to be done? And do you understand how to do what you need to do? Then tools will come in. So let me just quickly explain the concept of Miro to you. Miro is a lot of things. You can do quite a number of things with Miro. However, I use Miro primarily as a whiteboard. Now, what is a whiteboard? So you know that if you enter a lot of tech offices and all those things, you see them writing on a big whiteboard or on glass or something, right? Your whiteboard is basically just, even whiteboard is even too complex. Think about when you were in primary school, and if in your primary school they were, I don't know how recent your primary school was or how old it was, but my own primary school, we used blackboard where they use chalk on the board. And then whiteboard is basically, they changed just a whiteboard that I then use marker on and I can clean off easily. So something like that. But at the end of the day, a board, whiteboard, blackboard, whatever, a board is just a large space where you can put different notes so that it's easy for you to just see it. Now, I know we all know sticky notes, and most likely I've used sticky notes before. So just think about a whiteboard being a board, a very large, a big board where you can put different information, you can put sticky notes, and then you can rearrange things such that everybody, like, or you yourself, you can just take a glance instead of writing things in a piece of paper or writing on a system. Like, you can glance on it and you can see everything that is happening. Basically, that's just what a whiteboard is doing, or a board is doing. And that same idea is Miro. However, I don't really use Miro again these days because it's a bit uh, it's a bit limited. So I use what's it called now? I use Fig Jam. Fig Jam is by Figma. So I use Fig Jam more. And for example, as we are on a call like this, we can also even do, we can actually do what's it called now? There's Google also has this jam something where it's also a whiteboard or a like brainstorming board where you can just put things and stuff like that. So let me share I'm just going to share a couple of screens. Now, number one thing that I want to tell you is, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you notice, this thing is, if I keep scrolling, there's like a lot of space, like I can just keep moving around, moving around, moving around. Like, let me let me so I can move, I can put things up in different places. And so the essence of this is, everything is in a place. I can see like everything that is going on, and then I can share. For example, let's say we are brainstorming, we all can be on this same sheet together, putting sticky notes in place, putting things in place, and all that. So that's the essence. So, but however, I don't really use Miro again, but I just wanted to show you some stuff. For example, these are interview notes for a project. These are interview notes for a project. This is an empathy map for that same project. These are some insights, some pain points. Then still on there, these are process flows. Still process flow. This is a bit scanty though. There's not a lot here. Now, so that's one. And this is another one. I'm just showing you so that you just understand the basic. So how to use it is simple, really. I might not go into how to use it right now, but how to use it is quite simple. You just use mostly sticky notes. If you know how to use Google Doc or Microsoft Word, PowerPoint or Microsoft or Google presentation, this shouldn't be so hard. Okay, so this is still loading. So this is like another project where we have quite a number of things. We have interview notes on one side. We have empathy map on one side. We have challenges, user persona. We have features for the products. We have customer journey and user flow. We have user flows. We have like, so the things that anybody, like, as things are going on, I can just, if I'm looking for an information, I can look at this board and I know everything that is happening, basically. So, but again, I don't really use this guy's Miro again. I prefer to use FigJam. Yeah, I prefer to use FigJam. And intentionally, so this is my FigJam. It's also like a board with a lot of space around. So I can easily just put all the information I want. Yeah, so that being said, oh, okay, I'm not sharing my FigJam yet. Sorry. Can you see the FigJam board?
Yeah.
PM101
Yes.
So there's a lot of space here also, like there's a lot of space here. So, and the reason why I need you to use this is so that I can put all your things in one place. It's eventually, it will be easier for you to just have one place that you're putting all your stuff. If you create a Google Doc, so if you can put the link here and link it to the Google Doc, and like just putting all your stuff in one place, it's easier for you to refer to all these things when maybe you're looking for a particular information. It's easy to just go to that document and just find the information you're looking for. Yeah. So now the first thing that I will talk about is your interview note. For the purpose of this, what's the time? 9:05. I'll just talk a bit more, then we'll wrap up today. So the purpose, the first, okay, another disclaimer that I was going to give before I go ahead also is the way this design thinking flow. Again, if you remember in our first class, I said I didn't actually learn product management when I got into it. I was thrown into it, and some of these things I didn't know the theory behind them. I just was finding ways to make it work, to get what I needed to do, get it done. So over time, I have worked on like fine-tune some of these things that works for me. It might not necessarily be the industry standard. So even though I'm teaching you, feel free to read more about it, filter out what I've said, take the lessons, but improve on it. So I'm not saying that what I have is the right way, 100% right way to do it. However, this is how I do it and it works for me. And this was not the way I started doing it. I have improved over time. So so that's just a disclaimer, so that you not quote me and say this is how you must do it. However, these are the principles that I've also discovered about it. These are the principles, but the how that you are doing it itself might be a bit different. But these are like just the core principles that I'm going to be talking about. So don't necessarily quote me, learn from me, but improve. Yeah. So that being said, one other information before we go. I used Gemini, Google Gemini, to come up with all this information. Like, so I didn't have time during the week. I was going to do it, but I didn't have time during the week. So earlier today, I had to use, because I want to do this as an example. So I used Google Gemini to actually come up with the interview questions, just basic 5 interview questions. The interview answers, responses. So what we have, I've not even read through. I just put what I needed there. It generated it and I copied it. I didn't even read it if it makes sense or not. We are going to be reading it together. So I don't know if it makes sense, but these are interview responses, just basic. I hope we'll be able to use it. If not, we'll just tweak it. And a couple of other things. So all this information here were generated with Google Gemini. Please don't go and be using Google Gemini for your own. No. Me, if I want to do my project, I know how to sit down and come up with questions. Of course, you can use it. You can use AI as help, but don't rely on it. Learn how to do it yourself, but you can improve it with AI. Okay. So that being said, now I've put everything here, and I want you, and that's the first thing I want to say about this. All the things that has to do with your discovery should be on this document. To create an account, very simple. Go to figma.com, create an account with Figma. Once you are in Figma, you can go to like at the top you see something like Figma, new Figma file or new FigJam file. This is FigJam. It's also owned by Figma, but for you to have access, you just need to create a Figma account. That's all. Once you have Figma account, it's fine. So I hope that makes sense. So that you're not thinking, oh, how do we get this? And it's free, it's 100% free. I use it for free. I've never paid for it. There are limitations, but at least I use it for free. And with this, you can also collaborate. So that means when you're putting things together with your teammates, you can collaborate together with them and move things. Like you can be working on the board at the same time while you're on the call. Yeah, so question, go ahead, Chinonso.
Okay, so I want to find out. I've used FigJam once to, I think that was when I had to create a user flow, me and some of my team. But this is me asking, do you also use FigJam to create like a PRD? All of this write-up, are they on your FigJam?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay, specifically what can we create on a FigJam?
Okay, so what I use FigJam for primarily is like people put a lot more. Like I was a Scrum Master on one project, like just a very, very short 1 month. It was 8 weeks project, very, very short and a bit stressful actually. And on that, it was a German company, and that project they had a lot of things on their FigJam? No, on Miro. They use Miro. A lot of things on their Miro, including some part of the PRD, including a lot of flows, a lot of things. So it's dependent on you. again, some of these things, and that's the reason why I said I don't really care so much about tools, because your team matters. What your team decides to use matters. For me, I don't put my PRD on Fig. What I use FigJam for me, primarily, is the discovery phase. So I am going through the discovery phase. I come up with interview questions. I put my interview. So I'm putting my interview questions there. My interview notes, I'm putting it there. The empathy map, the everything that has to do with the define phase, everything that has to do with the ideate phase. Then when we want to do wireframes, that's prototype, I can either use paper sketches or I use balsamic, and I put the link, maybe pictures of paper sketches there, or I put the link to the balsamic file. I put it here, or I put what's it called now? Or I put or I use Figma itself. These days I've been using Figma more than than balsamic. Or I use Figma itself and I just link the Figma design file on this place. Then maybe after getting feedback, all the feedback that we get, all the responses and everything with so I like to just use FigJam or a board like this for my discovery phase. Now, when it now comes to now putting together the documentation itself, I either use Google Doc or Notion. Those are the two that I've used. For example, the current product I manage, the documentation is actually Google Doc for some of the credentials, what's it called now? Credentials, dependencies, and some of those other stuff. However, the core about how the product works, the user flows, and all those things, and the features, all those things, they are on Notion. Do you get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it is what works for your team. Now, this one, we use Notion and we still use Notion for the PRD because the PM that was in charge of this product before me actually used Notion, and I don't have the time to start moving everything to another place. So I continued using Notion. So in your own case, they might only be using Google Doc. Just use Google Doc. Does that? I know I talk a lot when I'm asking questions, but I like to talk, yeah. But I hope it makes sense. I hope I've answered the question. I'll also try and limit the way I talk though, so that we can do more with our sessions. Okay, so let's go ahead then. Thank you, Chinonso, for the feedback. So the first thing here is your interview questions. That's the first thing. Put it on this board. So once you create a board and all those things, your interview questions is the first thing. Now, it might not follow how I've arranged this. Now, also me, I put all these things here. This is not really how I'll put it, but because I generated them and I just copied everything and dumped it here. And then we are just going to use all these things and turn it eventually to how the board is like. So for now, just assume all this board is empty, like it's empty. And the first thing I'm adding is this guy, my interview questions, user group and interview questions. Does this make sense? That's the first thing, because now we are at the point of trying to document your findings and all those things. So for me, again, some of these things, the reason I would say put everything here is so that you are not looking at interview responses. Maybe in future you want to refer to something, you now come, you're looking at responses, but you don't quite collect the question that you asked. So you're now thinking, and you don't have the question yet, and you don't remember where you put the question and all those things. But if it's here, everything about what you're doing should just be here. Because it's easy to reference them later. Now, the first thing I've done now is to put the questions together. And let's say I want to just be sure of, I want to label what I've done. I can just add a text here and say interview questions. and I can make this large. I can make it green. Okay, I already typed it. I'll make it change it. Now, this is just me putting a header on my interview question so that I know. And you can also put it on, we can also, so here, this T is for text. These ones are if you want to draw shapes. So most likely this is what you use when you are doing a lot of flow charts because you are doing your arrow, and your shapes. So if you want to add a table, this is the one for adding table. And if you want to add a new section, is this one. This is your sticky notes. This one is to select, like your hand tool rather. And this is like if you just want to use the marker to scribble. Now, so for me, I've just put interview questions so that I know that if I'm looking for interview questions, once I see interview questions, I know that's the what I'm looking at. So I now want to document my interview responses. Right. Now, the things here I would want to use sticky note as much as possible. Again, somebody like me, I don't mind having repetition, repetition, repetition. So if you don't mind typing multiple times, you can type everything that the person has said as in your, you can type out everything that they've said and just put it here exactly the way I have it. Interview responses. So these are my interview responses. However, this is not the eventual thing that I want. This is just me. Maybe I just want to still just have everything here so that at least if one part of the board is lost, maybe someone mistakenly delete some part of the board, I can still come back to the original ones that I put. I just like having multiple things there so that in case information is lost, I can still get that information basically. Now, but the interview responses itself, that the documentation that I want you to have, that you need to work on, is now what we want to start. So things to note here are use sticky notes. That's number one. Are you following? Are you guys following? Please. Okay. Use sticky notes. That's the first one. Number two, only put one response in one sticky note. For example, you've asked the person, how do they buy properties today? And they've told you that, oh, if I want to buy a property, I reach out to, I check propertyniger.com and see properties that are available. And then I reach out to the developer in charge of that property and we negotiate. Now, that is the only thing that should be on that sticky note. Sorry. These people calling me for another meeting. Don't have time for another meeting tonight. Sorry about that. A call came in and it looks like it's meant to have a meeting that was cancelled, but maybe they are, I don't know. Okay. I'll sort this out tomorrow. Apologies for that. Okay, so as I was saying, you put the one response per sticky note. So don't use one sticky note for all the responses for one person. Sorry, please, 1 minute. I don't know. Guys, I apologize for that. I hope we are still with me. So, is everyone
Yeah,
still
no
with me?
problem. No problem.
All right. Thank you. So like I said, use sticky notes. That's number one. Number two, use one response per time. Put one response per sticky note. Don't put all the responses of a particular participant on one sticky note. One response per sticky note. That's two. And number three, put color code the sticky note. So for each participant, use one color for that participant's sticky notes. For example, participant one, you can put the participant sticky note as green. Then participant two, you can use the participant sticky note as blue. Like that. So that it's easy for you to color, like if it's color coded, it's easy for you to, if you're looking at responses for participant one alone, you can easily look at participant one is actually blue and just look at, green, and look at all the green sticky notes. So which means that you should not mix sticky note, like you use red and blue for one participant, and then you use that red again and maybe yellow for another participant. No, one participant per color, or one color per participant, basically, rather. So this is what we want to do now. We want to document our responses. So let me bring up a sticky note and put it here. This is where I'm now going to start my board. So forget about every other thing that is on the left. Now, just let's start looking at it from the, like this, these sticky notes. So the first, I like to, let me put a text beside this person and call it participant one, and make this medium, make it bold, like bolding it, and should be okay. I think that's fine. Okay, I think this is fine. So this is participant one for, sorry, I'm just trying to, now the first question, say the person said something. Okay, for example, one of the other things I like to do is, if my participants, if I've gotten their names and some demographic details, maybe their age, their names, what they do, and all those things, I like putting them together. Then one other thing also is, if you have multiple users, don't put participant one as, for example, teacher, student, parent. Don't put participant one as teacher, participant two, then you now use parent, then I put another teacher, then I use school administrator. No, put your you can, for example, for me, I have teacher, parent, and school administrator. So one other thing I can do is, I can basically even just create a section, or I need a section. No, I don't want to use the section. I can label this also, and I can create a section. It doesn't matter. And call it teachers. Now, so that means I can have another section, like after maybe I've done participant 1 to 10 for my teachers, then I do another one for maybe parents, and then do it then for school administrators, and then do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, don't model things together. Does it make sense? Because the problem the teacher has is different from the problem the parent have. They are different user categories entirely. Are you guys with me? I need feedback. You can unmute and okay. All right. So again, like I said, I used what's it called now? I used Gemini, Google Gemini for this. So I'm just going to basically copy and paste whatever is there. But ideally, what you should be doing, so what I like doing first is If I have details of my demographic, I put that as my first card. Then I do another sticky note beside it. This should be empty. Then I start putting that like their responses to all the questions. Now, some people do their participant one such that it is vertical like this. Like they put everything vertical, then the next one is below, then the next one is below. And then participant 2 will now be beside it and go down. Anyone works, but for me, I like it to be horizontal. Like participant 1, I should just keep going forward for it. The participant 2 is below it, participant 3 is below it, instead of the participant being side by side. And that's just my own preference too. So I'm just going to copy what they said, the their responses. So again, my questions were some of the questions I asked that it generated for me was for teachers. Yeah, okay. For teachers, how much time do you typically spend on administrative tasks like updating student records or sending out class as announcements? Then question 2, what challenges do you face in communicating with parents about student progress? What features would be helpful in a platform to streamline communication with parents? How comfortable are you with using new technology tools? What security concerns do you have regarding parent access to student information? Now, I'm not going to talk to maybe these questions are good or not. These questions could be better. Then if I was going to do this interview, really, I'm not just going to stick with these 5 questions. There will be more questions, really. But just for the purpose of this. So for one of the questions, I think for question 2, what challenges do you face in communicating with parents about student progress or classroom activities? This teacher has said contacting working parents through phone calls is difficult. Paper notes often get lost, and there's no centralized platform for sharing assignments and updates. So this is, does this even make sense? What challenges do you face? Okay. Yeah, so the teacher is saying that the challenge they face is contacting parents through work phone calls can be difficult. That's one challenge. Paper notes can often get lost. That's another challenge. There's also no centralized platform for sharing assignments and updates. That's another challenge. So I'm just going to put all this in a sticky note like this. Again, you can also say, how do I put it? You can also split these answers. Like this person said this, but there are so many. Okay, when we get there, we can split things further. Then I do the next one. Again, I'm just going to show you. I will not do everything, just so you understand what you need to do. So this is another problem. Sorry, this is another response. I put it here. Then I go to the other response. So when I say document your interview notes, this is what I would then be looking at. This is what I'll be looking at. This is what I hope that I want you to do. So let me share. There are 5 questions. I want to let me just do 3 more, 3, 4, 5, and just arrange them properly. Is it making sense? So you can unmute and talk to me if you have questions. But please let me know, is it making sense? Do you understand? Does it make sense? Is it confusing? Does it look like it's too much work and stuff like that? Please speak to me. Speak with me. Talk to me.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's too much work, but it makes sense.
All right. Thank you. Please, who else?
Please, I would like to ask, how long can you get this done without using AI?
Number
For
one, you
the
should not use. Number one, you should not use AI.
okay.
And how long? Like how long you should get? So this one again. This one I've used AI to generate interview questions and interview responses. Ideally, you should generate your interview questions yourself. You can use AI to improve the process, but it should be you. And then you should also you should also sorry, okay. Then your interviews, you should carry out your interviews yourself. Like it's not AI that you're solving a problem for. It's a human being, right? So you should be speaking with human beings. You should do your interviews yourself. Then once you are done with your interview, you then put together your interview notes. Because your interview will have done it manually, the AI will not put your interview notes together for you. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, miss, I get it. I get it. The question was for
Yeah.
the questions and the response. But thank you. I get it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but the question, for me, I didn't have time to, and this is just us walking through the class, by the way. So I didn't really go ahead to create three questions or interview anybody. And I don't want to. I have some interviews here, things I've done in the past, but I don't want to use, of course, another company's property to teach people. Yeah, so that's why. So you should create your questions, then you should go ahead and do the interview, and then you should then document. So it's not, and for the first person that said it looks like it's too much work. Well, this is like the work you need to do. Unfortunately, this is the work you need to do as a PM going through discovery phase. You need to do this work. Sorry, is there any other person that wants to share? Yeah, thoughts with me? So sorry, I can't exactly. You can go ahead, just go ahead. I can't see. I'm on this board, so I can't exactly see you. So you can, the person using, and you can just go ahead.
Okay, so can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so if after we have gathered our interview questions and get our interview responses, this is
Yes,
how we are documented. Is that what we're saying?
yes. Please document it this way. Now, there's a reason you are documenting it this way also, and I will share that. Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. Just give me a moment so I don't forget this coloring thing. You can see that what I said again, one response per sticky notes, different colors for each participant. So I'm on participant 2 for the teachers. So I'm just going to do this for all participants. I'm going to stop here so as not to bore us too much on the call. But I'll just stop here. I'll put in the responses for this person. So let me quickly show you something. I hope this is going to be enough. Don't forget that in define, what you are trying to do in define is to, again, let me look for that. What you're trying to do in the define phase is to come up with the problem statements, right? And for you to come up with that problem statement, you need to analyze the response, the data that you've gotten from the empathize phase. And for you to analyze that data, you need to put them in a place where it's going to be easy for you to be able to analyze it, right? Does that thought process make sense to you? The goal is to get problem statement out. For you to get problem statement out, you need to analyze the data. For you to analyze data, you need to make sure that it puts them in such a way that it's easy for you to be able to analyze. Because some other things that we are going to be doing are like looking at themes, like what are the common patterns with all these responses and stuff like that. Does it make sense? So let me just quickly show you this one. Okay, so this was one of the very old ones where Okay, this is one of the issues. Okay, I'm not sharing this tab yet. Can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes, I
Yes.
can.
So this one, some problem about this is these cards that we've used here, they are refined, refined, what's it called now? Answers, responses from people. The original one, so we were three that worked on this, one guy from Zambia, then two of us from Nigeria that worked on this. The original one was done on the person from Zambia's account, Miro's account, like what I'm doing currently, putting all the interview questions, putting all the interview notes. So I don't have, so we're now reading from that and putting here. So again, this is reasons why I say put everything in one place. Because now the person from Zambia, I no longer have his contact, which means all those notes, I no longer have access to them. Thank God this project is done, so I won't necessarily need it. But what if I need some information? Then I'll start looking for. You get what I'm trying to say? So, but where I want to get to is, see, the same sticky notes that we use initially to form these things, that sticky note eventually is what will now form our empathy map. That sticky note eventually, we'll use it on our user journey. Those sticky notes also, okay, so I don't think this is a good example. Have I closed? I think I've closed the Miro one. Unfortunately, I've closed the Miro. So those sticky notes, you need them across, like you need all this information across a number of activities that you perform in this defined phase. So that's the reason why they're saying just put them this way so that it's easy. For example, if you are looking for responses of participant one, you know the questions. You can just go very quickly through. You can go for participant two very quickly. Then by the time you are getting to the next phase and you want to put stuff together, you know it's easy for you to look at everything at the same time. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure I'm explaining it well, but I hope that makes sense to you.
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay. So let's uh so ideally you will go through this participant one to participant five for teachers, then do another one for parents, then do another one for what's it called now? For school administrators. Now, this is the case study that I'm just using. For you, for your own project is going to be different, right? So the core is you've gotten the questions. Again, forget about all these other ones. This is now the start. You've put your questions together. For each participant, all their responses, you are putting them together and put them in sticky notes. It's just easier to use sticky notes across board. One color per participant, one response per sticky note. Is that 100% gotten?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to finish this. However, I will try and finish it and then share the link with you so that I can just take a look. But I'm not going to finish it down because of time. Now, when you put all this together, so imagine that you've put all these things together now, like you have for all the participants. Then the core will then be your empathy map, right? So let me talk about the empathy map very quickly. The empathy map is just a tool that you use to section what. Okay, let me share this tab. So your empathy map basically, it's almost like at the final phase of Empathise. Now, this thing that we are currently doing in putting your interview notes together is still part of empathy. Then this empathy map is still part of empathy. By the time we are done with interview notes and this empathy map, that's when we actually finish empathy and go to define. And I'll then run quickly through those ones. But for empathy map, you are basically just put after you've understood and got all this understanding of these users, You then want to put together the thoughts of the participant or the user, what the user says, what the user does, and what the user feels. We want to put them in 4 quadrants like this, because again, this is going to help us in further refining the things in during the define phase. Now, what does each of these things, what does it mean? Say is practical. Okay, do is practically one of these. Do and say they are one of these. So let me explain from do. Do is okay. Do is whatever the participant or whatever the user, whatever they do to carry out the task today. For example, if I ask you a question of today, how do you currently go about about listing your about selling your property? And the person says, oh, today I go to property.ng. I have an account to property.ng. So I go to property.ng and I list my property for sale. That is an action, right? That is me doing. Do you understand? Does that make sense? They do as an action, what they do, the actions they perform to actually get something done. How do you today, how do you go about receiving treatment? Oh, today I go to the hospitals and go for doctor consultations in the hospital. That's do. Or today I have an app. I have a telemedicine app. So first I do a consultation on the telemedicine app just to get a general feel of what is going on. And then maybe if the doctor then says I need to do some tests, I go ahead to carry out some tests, and I either go back to the app for further consultation or I go to the hospital. Now, this is today how I carry out the task for getting treatment. Does it make sense? Does that make sense? Do you understand? If it's confusing, please let me know so that I can come again. Okay. Victoria, is it? Do you understand? Thank you, Maki. Thank you, Mav. Victoria Chinonso, do you understand? Okay. Thank you, Victoria. Chinonso.
Sir.
Okay. It sounds like you don't understand fully.
I don't understand.
Okay, so think about it like this. While you were having your interview with them, some of the things you are trying to understand is today, how do they solve that problem? Right? Today, how do you get treatment? If you are sick, how do you get treatment today? For example, you are doing health app. Today, how do they use their products that they have? Do you get? So the actions that they perform, that they say they perform to get that thing done today, is what goes into the do quadrant. And I'll show you exactly how it goes to the do quadrant, really. But that action. So, for example, if I say that today, the way I go about getting treatment is if I feel down or if I feel sick, I go to the hospital to see a doctor. That action of me going to the hospital to see a doctor is me doing something, right?
Yes, sir.
So that means it's going to go into the do quadrant. And I'm going to explain how to go into the do quadrant. That one is very simple. But the action of doing something. So think do as an action, sort of. That action of doing something goes to do. This thing can become confusing. Sometimes it confuses me, honestly. But the action that they perform to get something done is primarily what goes into the do quadrant. Now, what do they feel? So you are discussing with this person, you are interviewing this person, and then at some point you see that they feel disgusted about something, or they feel emotional, like they feel sad. Maybe you get what I'm saying? Like, what, we talked about emotions the last time. So those emotions, they are the things that goes into the feel. And sometimes the feel and the think, sometimes it's too sometimes it might not be part of your interview notes. It might be the additional things that you note down during your interview. For example, okay, when I go back, I'll show you that. But do you understand feel? Feel is emotions. What are the emotions that they show when you are interviewing them? What are the emotions that they show? And I understand. Hello? Oh. So the next one is think. Sorry, let's do say. Let's do say first. Say is easy. Any direct quotes that they have, just put it on say. Any direct quotes that they have that is now them doing something or thinking something is saying something. For example, um, let's say I ask them a question about estate agents and all those things, and they just say, well, estate agents can estate agents can estate agents can be very tricky, or working with estate agents can be very tricky. That's not doing something. That's not them. Um, that's not them performing an action to that can go to do, and that's not them feeling something, like feeling some emotions. Just something that they say, like working with estate agents can be very tricky, and then you ask, okay, why do you think they are tricky, and that working with them is tricky? And then they keep talking. That thing that they said, working with estate agent can be very tricky. It goes to the say quadrant. Does it make sense? Again, you can go through this again and again, and eventually you understand it. Then the final part is what they think, their thought process. So when you ask them a question, and then okay, so you ask them a question about something, and they are not exactly, so a number of times think think and say can border on a thin line, but somehow, because sometimes, okay, so you can ask direct questions to actually evoke the think part. For example, you can ask questions like, what are your thoughts? Maybe you asked a question and you saw the way they responded, and then say, what are your thoughts um about working? What are your thoughts about allowing estate agents run your properties for you without you having direct say in it? Like, and then they are saying, I think, or I don't know the best way to actually explain this thing. Think is something that they are not exactly saying out like a quote, but that is going through like some thinking. Oh, I'm trying to find the right words to actually put the think to. Okay, let's look at an example. Maybe I'll be able to use that. I'm coming. But do you understand the say, feel, and do? Do you understand say, feel, and do? Do is the actions they perform. Feel is emotions that comes. Say is their direct quotes, what they are saying directly. Then think. Let's just go through this stuff again. So see this now. Can you see my screen? Hello. I can no longer see you, but can you see my screen?
Yeah, you can see your screen.
Okay. All right. So for teachers, things if you do. Again, I just copied it so that it's easy for us to access this. Um, Here, let's start with do. Remember that this first teacher here, uh, this first participant says that right now, okay, so the secure messaging, express frustration. Okay, here we use paper notebooks and spreadsheets. We use paper notebooks and spreadsheets. Where will this go to?
Do.
Do you agree, Chinonso and Maki?
I didn't get you.
This particular one that I'm reading on the screen, we use paper notebooks and spreadsheets. Where on the four quadrants will this go to?
Do.
Okay, thank you, Mav. So, Chinonso, do you agree with do? Maki, do you agree with do?
So my question is it um for the student, what did you call that? Is it for the green ones now or for the purple?
No, for the green. Sorry, I've not updated the purple. Sorry about that. For the green ones, just this last one. Don't forget that these are the responses for participant one, right? This green, they are the responses for participant one. Now, in this green, of all these green, this one that says we use paper notebooks and spreadsheets, which can be cumbersome. Which this we use paper notebooks and spreadsheets now, this part, for this green, this person. Which part on the four quadrants of the think safe you do, which quadrant is this going to stay on?
Okay, is the do part.
The do part. Okay. Then also,
The do.
okay. Your the do is not very convincing. However, it's going to be on it's going to be on do because the question this person was trying to answer is how they today maintain students return student performance grades and all those things. And they said we use paper notebooks and spreadsheets. So today, what we use to manage is paper notebooks and spreadsheets. So that is a doing thing. That is what we do to maintain. Do you get? That's the actions. Do you understand what I'm saying, Chinon? So yeah. Now let's look at this other. Let's look at the responses for the participant two. Um, why is it not okay? Hey, not too small. Participant two says translation features regular progress sports with and blah 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 blah. Difficulties translating parents regular. Okay, so from all of this, and it's fine sometimes that some like not all of them will, not all the participants will have things that will go into all the quadrants. For example, participant two doesn't exactly have teacher two doesn't exactly have a do right now. They don't exactly because what they have is challenges with communication. Hmm. Okay, but let's come back to that. Let's just work with the one that we've put up here already. So we agree that we use paper notebooks and spreadsheet goes to do. This one, where would it go to? Miss Okafor expressed frustration with the current system's inefficiency, highlighting the need for a platform that allows for quick communication and easy access to student records. What
You.
where you said? What did you say? Chinonso, I didn't hear you. Is it Chinonso that talked? Was it Chinonso that talked or Maki?
Okay, it
I
was
think it was.
Okay,
Chinonso.
what did you say,
I said
Chinonso?
feel.
Okay, Mav, do you agree? Maki, do you agree?
Sorry, I
Yes.
didn't hear how.
This
She
this
said
is feel.
feel. Again,
Feel.
yes. So let's just because of time. So the right answer is feel. Actually, express frustration. So this is a feeling, right? Um, this could also be a feeling. Um, worried about unauthorized access to students' information. This could also be a feeling. Worry. This is also a feeling because then there needs to be you are doing like an online platform where people can access stuff, but this person is worried that okay, what if the unauthorized people try to get access to student information? So worry, this is also a feeling. Now so this one here is like a saying: contacting working parents through phone calls is difficult. This is a say. This is a say. This is not a feeling. This is not necessarily a do. This is more or less like a say. Um, okay. Does it make sense so far? How we are like putting it together?
Yes, it
This is
does.
one of the tricky parts actually. But once you get it, you it's fine. Once you get it, you've gotten it. Okay, so the so if you put this together, for example, if you put all the responses of the 5 teachers together, go ahead. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's quite tricky. But no, it takes time. With time, you get to you you get a good angle of it. Then if your interview, the reason why I'm having issues with all this is, like I said, I created this with Google Gemini. I'm just going through it for the first time on this call. So some of these responses, if I did the interview and I was there and they were giving these responses, I would know what their emotions were. I would know what they say. I would like, it's easier. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But because I'm just looking at things on the board that one random AI generated, I'm just also making sense of it the very first time. So that's why it's also but once you get the hang of it, especially if you do the interviews yourself, is not that difficult, really. So for teachers, um, saying that there's no centralized platform for sharing information, that's the last one I talked about before coming here, is a saying. Contacting parents through phone calls is difficult, is a saying. Paper notes often get lost. Again, so you notice that, yeah, that's another thing. That is another thing. What they have done is to break down these responses even further, which is something I would also do. You don't want to, you also want each card, each sticky note to represent one answer. For example, contacting working parents through phone calls is difficult. Paper notes often get lost. There's no centralized platform for sharing assignments and updates. Now, I know that if it's a human that was talking, the human will actually not say these two things in the same sentence because there's no centralized platform for sharing assignments. Or okay, let me explain it this way. Even though this teacher has said this thing to answer a longer question, there are so many things involved in what they've said. Like there's the question of contacting parents through phone calls is difficult, right? There's also paper notes getting lost. Paper notes and contacting parents, they are not exactly the same idea. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. if you had carried out this interview yourself, you would know that some of these things are like the AI has modeled them up together. You get, or what questions do you think that the teacher will give all this as one response? Do you get what I'm trying to drive at? I know, sorry, I know we are tired and I'll just wrap it up here, but let me just let's just end it here. Ideally, all these things will not be together, right? Because they are totally different. So so that's the first thing that I want to point out. Again, this is one of the flaws of using AI. So that's number one. So you should not combine stuff together too much. For example, if you break this one down into three, we suddenly have three what's it called now? Three sticky notes. The first sticky note saying contacting working parent through phone calls is difficult. That is a say. Paper notes often get lost. That's another say. There's no centralized platform for sharing assignments and updates. That's another say. A secure messaging platform within the a secure messaging system within the platform would be ideal. That is a think. Sharing lesson plans and assignments electronically will save time. That's also a think. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm trying to find a way to drive
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
the most likely this AI I use AI again and I just put all these things together. However, I'm not sure the only question that I can ask, for example, the only question I can think of right now that I can ask a teacher will give me this response as one is me asking questions like, oh, so what features do you think what features should your ideal student management system have? Don't notice that I've asked them features or what features should that product have or something like that. Then they'll start listing the features, right? So for every list, every feature that they say, I will put it in as a response on its own. Because I'll know more. Imagine if they give me like 5 different features that are touching different things. I'll not want to model everything together. So even though you are using one card per question, if that question is long enough that there are so many insights in that question, break it down further. Does that make sense? Does that clear it?
Yes, it does.
So because this first one, you have like 3 things there. This second one, we are talking about secure messaging within the platform. We're also talking about sharing lesson plans. Like there are multiple things you can spread them. The next one, worried about unauthorized access to student information. So 2-factor authentication and data encryption will be important. Now this can be one. I can take this really as just one response, and I can split it into 2. Where worried about unauthorized access to student information is 1, then 2-factor authentication and data encryption are important as 2. I can split it out like that. So at the end of the day, you just want to, again, what you're trying to do is analyzing. So you are putting all their responses, you are putting it out, you are spreading it out. Because now, you know that you need all these responses to complete your empathy map. And for now, you understand the say, feel, do. The think will be something like this one, a secure messaging a secure messaging system within the platform should be ideal. This is a good example of thinking. Like a system, so I think a secure messaging system will be ideal. It's not necessarily, it can't fall into do. It can't exactly fall into feel. So it's in between say and think. But I will take this as a think rather than a say. I'll take everything in the first one. Contacting working parents through phone calls is difficult. Like I will take those ones as say. Do you get what I'm saying? Does it make sense? Especially the say and think. Okay. All right, cool. Sorry that I wasted a lot of time tonight just trying to talk a lot to get things on. Like I said, I like talking a lot, so I need to caution that so that I can get more done in the short time that we have. Unfortunately, we can't do more than this. But just the last thing, after you've put all your notes together like this and you've broken them down, the thing Safe you do is quite very easy to do. You just need to draw the 4 quadrants, right? Draw the 4 quadrants. And me, to just make it easy, what me I do is I use boxes. I just use one box here. I duplicate the boxes. Duplicate. Yeah, let me make it bigger. Then you say, sorry, like these two, just select it. The introduce. This is just what me I do, and I can just do one, select the 4 of them and group them together as one, and I call it my empathy map. Does it make sense? So,
Yes.
so I can label each one of them. Like I can then take text and put it here and say, think. Again, and like I said, it is understanding what you want to do and how to do it that matters, not necessarily the two. There are other people that they will just draw lines and all those things. There are, for example, on FigJam too, there are templates, there are empathy map templates, but I just prefer to do this. So I just put the text, things Safe you do, I set out. So once I set up, my goal is to just have 4 quadrants. And I can also just do, instead, I can do lines where I have two straight lines, one vertical, one horizontal. But I don't want to do that. So in actually putting together my empathy map, I then look at my interview notes. For example, let's say I've broken this down into two. Worried about two-factor authentication is important. Worried about this. Let's take this worried about out in this first one. Yeah. So let's say I've broken this out into two. So what I want to do now is for each of these things that these people have, like for each of these things on my interview notes, where can I place them on my empathy map? So worried about unauthorized access to student information. We said this is a field. I duplicate it and I drag it to where my field is going to be. Is it behind? Oh, okay, it's behind it. Let me bring it forward. Into front. Do you guys understand? This is the last thing I'm talking about, and we can close it for today. Hello, are you with me? Okay. So I move it. Then there's another say, right? There's another field. There's another field that says express frustration. So I move that field, this one again. Here. Then move into front. Okay, maybe this is not the best one to use. Maybe I should have just used lines. So then I go through again. This person has said this other thing. Two-factor authentication and data encryption are important. Look at, okay, this should be a control D. This should be a, what's it called now? A say. This should be a say. So I move it to my say quadrant. Do you get?
Yes, I get you.
So you do that until you have something like this. You do that until you have all the stuff here, all the ones that like everything about the teachers. So let's say we are doing empathy map for the teachers. Sorry, for everybody rather. So all the thing that needs to go to say, all the thing that needs to go to do, like you do this until you exhaust all the things that are here. Now there are some things that might not fall into any quadrants, that might just be informational, that does not really make sense to fall into any quadrant. It's fine. Then also, it is not, the goal is not to get as many things inside all these boxes as possible. The goal is to get things, quality things that really that can be represented by each of these quadrants into each quadrant. Does that make sense? Then notice that I am making a duplicate. I am not just moving. Some people will move it. Notice that I am making a duplicate. Again, the essence of me making duplicates is that if I need to come back to this board, if I have dragged everything, that means under interview notes, I will no longer really have anything under interview notes. Everything will now be under empathy map, right? Then the next thing I now want to do, I now drag again everything from empathy map. Then that means I'll no longer have things under empathy map. So I just like duplicating things such that again and again, and that's my advice, duplicate all of them, so that if you come back and what you want to check is the interview note, you go to the interview note section, you check anything you want to do. If you want to go to empathy map, you go to the empathy map, you check what you want to do. So at every point in time, there are multiple of these things such that, and each one of them is under their own section, such that you don't necessarily need to refer to another section to understand what another section is. Does that make sense? And I'm wrapping up already. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, it does to me.
Yeah, okay, cool. So that's the last thing I'm going to talk about. So for your task, for your case study, refine your problem statements. Marv, you can check the link again and look at the question that you want to do and let me know. And then we'll go ahead. We cannot do anything that has already been selected. I think number 2, 5, and 7 has been selected. I think those are the 3 numbers that have been selected. They can just check through for the other ones. So, but for your task, put together and like refine your interview questions. That's number 1. Refine them if you need to refine them further. Carry out interviews. Document your interview notes like this. Again, like I said, put your interview questions also here. You can also put the way I've put the text, plain text of the interview questions, the way I've put it. You can also put it there in one section so that you have access to all these things in future. But the documentation, the main documentation you are looking at now is document your interview notes this way. I hope you can see the annotation I'm doing. Document it this way. Then when you finish the documentation of your interview notes, then do your empathy map. Think, say, feel, do. Fill it up. And we will continue from there the next time we meet. So the next time we meet, we'll then be looking at common themes, like looking at all your empathy maps and all those things. We'll now be looking at common themes and combining things together. So in the define phase, what we do is basically that, like we are already doing in define phase anyways. So you start looking at what are the things that are repeated, what are the things that are patterns. You start putting them together and forming a common theme. And when you have those common themes, you now look at, okay, what is the core problem statement that can generate from these common themes? No, sorry, after the common themes, you then come up with a user persona. So the next time we'll use what you have on your empathy map. Sorry, 1 minute, Mal. We'll use what you have on your empathy map we'll use it to come up with common themes and patterns that we can identify. Then we'll then use that to generate our user personas. Then we then use that, after generating our user personas, we'll create problem statements. And then we will look at which of the problem statements is the most critical, and we decide on the problem statements we are going to be working on. Then we'll move to the ideate states. Now, this part of discovery and doing all these many grunt work is like some of the major work when it comes to discovery. Then there's still then upon all these, after you finish all the discovery thing, you now do market research to improve your product, computer research, and those other things. But yeah, these are like where the major work is. Building the product itself, like writing tickets, getting the developers to write the code. To me, that's like the easiest part. Like, that's the easiest part. The major work is finding the right problem to be solved and finding the right solution. And the way to find the right problem is this, what we are still doing. The way to find the right solution is also what we are still doing. So it is when you have found the right solution, building that solution is the easiest part of it. Then after you've built it, measuring that solution, making sure that that solution succeeds in the market is the next big thing, which is, don't forget our definition of a PM. The PM's job is to find the right problem, build the right solution to solve that problem, make sure that solution succeeds in the market. So yeah, Mav, you can go with your question, and I'll just take that question and we wrap up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mav. I can no longer hear you, Mav.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So I said, I don't know if you spoke about me joining the team or I can start afresh, because the first time you people met, I was not part of the meeting. So if I can join someone's team to continue, or
okay, we can.
this is what you think?
The thing is, I'm trying to avoid too many people having the same case study, so that when you guys are putting your stuff out there, it's not the same thing that someone else has done, same thing that someone else has done. That was why I was trying to keep it as two people to one. However, I think we can add you to a check. Okay, this is it. Check the questions. Check the questions on the board. Let me know if you want to go at it alone, or if you want to join someone, a group.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
Just let me know. So when you let me know, I'll then decide. I'll then let you know which group that you will join.
Okay.
That's if
Thank
you
you.
want to join a group.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Maki, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask, is it possible for us to like send the document of the one we've already done, like for you to just check it for us whether we're on the right track before we can start doing this one now?
Okay. So what I would say is create a FigJam file. Put the just like okay, the ones you've already done, you've already typed them out, right?
Yes, I have.
So copy everything you've typed, put it on your. That means that for each, like, okay, all of you create FigJam files, but that means that you and your team members will have access to be able to collaborate on that file. But then just put all your notes, all your questions and your notes, put it on the FigJam file, and you can send me the link. You can send the link on the channel, sorry, on the group, or send it to me, anyone. Fine. So it's easy for me to then take a look on your FigJam file, and make comments. Do you get? So that means
Okay.
from now till we finish the whole process of product discovery, the major place I'll be checking for your work will be the FigJam file.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
You're
I have
welcome.
a question.
Okay, go ahead, Chinonso.
One, um, based on what Matthew just said, are we to also incorporate our case studies on the feed jam and then put our interview questions and then their responses? So we should
Sorry,
just leave
can
aside.
you take the question again? I didn't quite hear you.
So my question is this: are we to incorporate our case studies on the feed jam, like where we are to also put our interviews and responses, or we should just go ahead with the interview questions and their responses again?
Okay, so yeah, I will advise that you put everything here. So you can copy your case study question, put it on the FigJam file. Then the interview questions, put it on the FigJam file. The responses, your interview notes, put it on the FigJam file. Then you can now start so you can put those on if you have, then you can now start like putting your, like what you started doing now, putting your response, the interview notes into sticky notes based on participants, like what we've done. Then when you are done with that, you can now do your empathy map. So put everything, including your case study question and your interview questions, put everything on the FigJam file. So it means
Okay.
that anytime, for example, if I want to check your work, I might not exactly remember what you're working on, but I can quickly go to the place where you've put your questions, your case study, and can quickly read through what your case study is, and then go to your interview questions, and then go to your maybe empathy map to quickly check if you're on the right track and stuff like that.
Okay, sir. Secondly, my second question is this: for every product that a product manager is to oversee,
Yes.
like this thing we are going to do, this problem statement that we are going to undergo now, is it what every PM does for every product?
Depends on the product. For example,
Oh,
what stage is the product? For me, because most times through my career, I've worked primarily on business to business, like building for other businesses. So most of these businesses, they have a slight idea of what they want to do, but they require us to do product discovery. So almost every product I'm doing product discovery. However, some companies don't exactly believe in this. Some companies will just tell you this is what you are building and go ahead and build it. However, the best way to ensure that your product succeeds in the market is making sure you build the right product. That way, at least you have a fighting chance. One of the ways to make sure that you build the right product is actually do product discovery to try and go through like understanding what needs to be built and all that. So, which means that a lot of products, especially if you want to get insights and use that insights to drive building products, a lot of products will go through this too. Then after the product has launched, some people don't really use it, so they just keep using feature based on what people say and all those things. However, some companies, or when you want to launch some new features or ways to improve the product, sometimes you go through this flow again. So which means that on the same product, you can go through this flow multiple times. First, to discover the product. Next, to discover features and additional features, maybe in future, additional features that you want to add to the product. Because for every feature you want to add, we also treat it as a product on its own sometimes. But again, if you're in a kind of company where you are getting what to be built from support, from feedback, from or you don't really do stuff like this, or what you are doing is just maintaining the thing and finding ways to grow just maintenance, then you might not go through always. So what I'm saying in this sense, the summary is: number one, it depends on the company you're in. Number two, it depends on the product and the stage that product is. That, however, every PM or for every product that you want to build, you are meant to go through the process of making sure that you are building the right thing. And the way you can think about one of the tools, one of the frameworks, this is not the only framework being used, but one of the frameworks that people use to make sure that they know that they are building the right thing is this design thinking framework. But there are a couple of other frameworks that can be used. However, some companies don't bother. They just, and all these things that we are doing, you can do it within 1 week. Oh. I can do everything within 1 week. Like day one, like yes, you can. In fact, some in some situations, the way you do, you can even do it in less than a week because you want to do it very fast. The goal is also not to spend weeks and weeks doing discovery. The goal is to get understanding very quickly and push and test and push to the market. So sometimes you can do this in a week. For example, let's say you are doing design thinking with a team. Day one, you can, like I said, you can do it in less than a week. But if you are going to do it in a week, the way I would think of it is: day one, you do empathy. So that day, you are coming up with questions, you are deciding who you are going to speak with, you are coming up with questions, you are doing a lot of interviews back to back that day, and you are documenting your interview notes. Day two, you are doing define. Sorry, you are doing define, yes. Putting your empathy maps together, finding common themes, coming up with user persona, coming up with problem statement, deciding what you want to do. Day three, you are doing a lot of brainstorming. Like day three is where idea is where brainstorming really kicks in. You are doing a lot of brainstorming to come up with a lot of ideas on how to solve the problem. And then you are fine-tuning and um, and looking at the best ideas eventually. Day four, we are doing a lot of prototypes. Some prototypes to at least test out the stuff. Day five, we are actually going out to test it. Then you take feedback. You go, if you need to improve the process, you go improve the process again. Day six, you add your feedback, you improve your prototypes. Day seven, you test your prototypes. And at the end of that, like 1 week long thing, you know what you want to build. And then you go ahead and start building it. 2 months, you build, or 1 month, you build something and you push to the market. You get. So don't think about this as one long thing that I do for like a month. Do you know why we are taking this late? Because you guys are new to it. And so I need you to have the time to go. But for example, if you are a PM and I say, oh, as a PM, I'm giving you a project to go and I'm giving you that project, that LTEC project. Find it out, check it out, and let me know. And let's know what you are going to build at the end of the day. Like you can do it within 1 week. Like I'm giving you a team of the two designers and you. Look at this thing together. Go through discovery phase, and then let's see what you need to build. You can do this within 1 week, 2 weeks. Basically, speak with people. Like it's not a hard thing. And for example, now you go to work, then you are doing this one by the side. But that one, this is primarily your job, and that's the only thing you are doing. So you'll go find questions, go out, test, ask it, come back, put your stuff together, go out, do prototype, go out, test prototype, get feedback, improve, go out, test it again, come back, improve, decide on final products and final prototype, put together your feature lists, tell management this is what you are building. They give you developers look into it. Okay, this is what you need, dependencies and code. They set up to start building is as direct as that. I hope that makes sense to everyone. I'm not going to talk about it.
Yes, it does for me.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks for the feedback also, Marv and Maki. So there's no other questions, I believe. Uh, Okay. So I take the silence to mean that there is no other question. So please don't forget what I talked about in terms of doing the task. Put together all the information you have currently, fine tune your questions, carry out interviews again, and do your interview notes, empathy map. Send your what you have so far. Put it on your FigJam file and send it to me. Let me take a look. Thank you, everyone. Do have a lovely night rest. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, sir.
All right, bye.